6 Roach Bait studies reveal how horizontal transfer works for secondary and tertiary kill. Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey, welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. Hey, the title of the show really is long. And I want to get into this podcast by thanking all of you listeners that are listening to us every week. We're getting more and more listeners from all over the country listening to us, and I'm getting a lot of email. I'm getting a lot of us. You are reaching out to me through Facebook and messaging me through Facebook with lots of questions, and you have a ton of very, very good questions that I really would like to start to get answering. And there's 2 ways that we can do it. You can ask me the question and I can read the question on the air and try to answer those questions, or you can participate in the podcast by calling our question and comment line at 707-395-7378. You can leave a recorded message. If you don't want your name mentioned, all you do is just don't leave your name. Just leave the question and we'll play it on the air. We'll play the question on the air as part of the podcast. And these are very, very good questions that a lot of people have that could help other people. I mean, if you have the question, somebody else has the question. So I'd like to be able to participate, get it on the air. If you want to leave the name of your company, your name, where you're from, that'll be great. We'll greatly put it on the air. So, just go ahead and do that. And rather than send me an email, I can always read the email and let me know if you want me to include your name in the reading of that email or not. Because, obviously I don't want to violate your privacy if you don't want to be known and you just want to be behind the scenes. And a lot of people are just shy about talking into a microphone or leaving a message, how they're going to sound on the air. Guess what? You're going to sound the same way you sound to everybody else. So just go ahead and play along. All right. I want to give a special shout out to the Cornell Cooperative Extension Service in Sullivan County. They like the podcast. They're sharing our stuff. We're really thankful for that. And just to always let people know that, if you're in an area, get in contact with your Cooperative Extension Service. They have great education, great training, great programs, and stuff that really benefits the whole community. So get involved with your Cooperative Extension Service. To me, it's been a great blessing and an honor to not only participate, but also to serve there as a volunteer. It's very, very rewarding to do that and work with a lot of people. And there's just tons of great people there that have been just an enormous amount of help to me over the years, and I really am thankful for that. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, by looking up Pest Geek Podcast, all one word. We're on the web at www.pestgeekpodcast.com. And this podcast is sponsored by Audible. If you like listening to great content, you're going to love, all right, books on audio. I am just an audio junkie. I do better with audio. I love going to conferences. I like going and listening to good speakers. I retain an awful lot. But the great thing about audiobooks is you can listen to it over and over again while you're working, while you're doing something else, just like a podcast. And I've got in my library at least almost 70 books in my audio library that I've listened to over the last couple of years. And I think it's probably the greatest investment I've ever made. So if you want to get a free download and a free month, you can do so, and this will help support the podcast. Go to audibletrial.com. It's www.audibletrial.com/pestgeek. And that way you'll be supporting us and you'll be getting a free book and getting great content. Hey, it's time for the tech tip of the week. If you're like me and you're outside and you do a lot of work outside, where the weather can really affect what you do, I have an app that I love. I've used many of them. I've used Weather Channel. I've used other radars, but I love the WeatherBug app. You can get it for iPhone, and you can also get it for Android devices. And I use it on a continual basis. If I decide I got to go somewhere and if there's rain in that area, I might decide to do something else and give it a chance. Or simply if I know that I got to apply a product and it's rainproof within like an hour, then I know, and I can look at the map and look at the radar and look how that weather is moving that way or my way and decide if that's a wise decision or not. It's a great little tool that you can have. It's a free tool. You can download it for free. You can get it in most cities. It has great weather cams also that you can see from different areas in your city, and you can actually see the weather going. If you're heading that way, you can actually see what is happening on the map. Now, the map is great because it goes all the way from blue all the way to green, yellow, orange, and red being that there's heavy, heavy rain. So you can see the amount and the density of that rain coming your way. So I think it's a great tool. It's free, and I use it on a daily basis down here because I never know how the weather's going to change from 1 minute to the next. I wanted to talk about this study that I've been working on for a while, and part of my creating a service strategy that for controlling German roaches. And it's always a challenge in a lot of places, especially multi-unit dwellings, apartment buildings, food service facilities, restaurants, you name it. If there's food and there's lots of people, there's lots of incoming merchandise and stuff, you're going to get German roaches. You'll have to deal with them. And I struggled at the beginning trying to get control of German roaches until I actually learned how to get control. I was doing a lot of things. I was doing the spraying with organophosphates. I was using my Actisol, and I was, fogging the place up, and I was doing, flushing and all this stuff. And I had to keep on doing that. And I am not the kind of person that I want to expose myself to a ton of chemicals unnecessarily, and therefore I don't want to expose other people to chemicals unnecessarily. I mean, you do unto others as you would like them to do unto you, and I had to find a better way, and I started getting into the baits, but I also had, the habit that I've learned about spraying, and I had to decide whether to do one or the other. I know that there's a lot of people that do both, but you run into a lot of trouble when you're doing the roach baiting and the spraying because you don't know when cross-contamination is happening, and you might run into problems. And I had to decide to do one or the other, and I decided for baits, and in the last 6 years, it hasn't let me down. And I don't do, even in my commercial properties, my restaurants that I manage, food service facilities, gas stations that have food, I do zero spray indoor. I am a zero spray guy indoor, and a lot of people can't believe it. A lot of people ask me about that. How do I get to that? And it really comes down to making a decision when you educate yourself and to trust that how you're performing that service. And you're going to have to practice it over and over, and you're going to have some failures. But guess what? Failure is part of the process. And you have to be able to get to that point where you learn. And I'm going to share with you not only the 6 studies are on the notes. We're not going to go over the 6 studies, but they're very long, but they're very good studies where they focused on specific products and they did specific applications, and this getting to know how these products work, and particularly how horizontal transfer works for secondary kill and tertiary kill. And what a secondary kill is and a tertiary kill is, think of it this way. One roach eats the bait, and a second roach comes along and comes in contact with either the vomit, the eating of the carcass, or the eating of the feces, and then that roach dies. A tertiary effect would be then when the third roach comes in contact with the second roach that ate it and dies. Okay? And there's 3 primary ways that roaches and baits use their own biology against them. in order to achieve this. The first, probably most effective secondary kill is emitophagy or phagy, which is a very it's an etymological word to describe cockroach vomit. And most roaches, when they eat an active ingredient and they're dying, they tend to regurgitate that and vomit. And that causes, and for some reason, cockroaches go crazy for their roach vomit. It's a delight for most cockroaches. So what it does is then they eat that vomit and the active ingredient is vomited up, and then they in turn die. The other secondary kill effect is caprophagy, or which means that the roach eats the feces of another roach, mainly the nymphs and different instars. All right. The other is cannibalism, necrophagy. Okay. What they do is the large roaches or the adult roaches tend to open up the stomach of the dead roach and eat the stomach contents, and then you get a secondary kill effect across the entire nesting area. What the difference is in how a lot of these baits work is how that secondary kill effect is working and who it is affecting. So in the case of, is it working best, that particular active ingredient, is it working best for the first and second instars? Or is it working better in the third and fourth instars? Or is it only really working well with other adults? You see? And that's what happens when, and I would get, all of a sudden I would start using, when I first started using, the first bait that I used was Max Force FC, which had fipronil. And it was 0.01% at that time. Fipronil works very well by either ingesting or just coming in contact with it. But what these studies found with fipronil is that it works very quickly. So in products that work very quickly, the roach doesn't have time to get back to the nest before it dies, and it can vomit or poop all over itself. And therefore, the secondary, if it doesn't defecate and it doesn't regurgitate, you might not be getting all of the secondary kills that you can. Later, it was increased to 0.05%, which made it to work a lot faster. So that's one of the concerns that fipronil had, but it does have very good secondary kill. Okay. The other one that seems to be that Max Force had two lines, hydromethalnon, which was the Max Force Pro Roach Killer, and it was very, very, very slow acting. So people were using the FC and then using the Max Force Pro and noticing the other one was killing roaches faster than this one, and they preferred to go with the fast kill. But what they didn't realize was that the gel bait was so slow acting that it was producing an extensive secondary kill. It took longer to get rid of the problem, but it took care of more of the problem. Where nymphs in all different instars are dying, it's just taking longer. And what happens is, if you don't know this and you start applying a product and all of a sudden it killed everything fast, and then you switch products because maybe the distributor didn't have it, or you wanted to try it, or you heard a podcast like this, and then all of a sudden it doesn't produce the same result, you say it doesn't work. It works, but it works slower, then it works better. And that's just how a lot of these bait products work. And a lot of customers, depending on the situation, you're not going to have the luxury of waiting too long. So you have to learn how the product works. So then you can decide, is this something that I can do that if it goes, 72 to maybe longer hours, because these products start working very quickly. I mean, within like 8, 12, 24, and 72 hours, you get complete kill, even secondary kill. Okay. So if you're in a situation where you have a restaurant or food service facility and you need a quick knockdown, you're going to want to use a product that does a quick knockdown, that is fast acting. In the case of a product like Indoxacarb, which is Advion is really different because Advion provides a really fast kill, but it also provides great secondary kill and tertiary kill, which is very impressive. So, you need to know what you're going to be doing, and if it's in a restaurant that's really highly infested. What I've heard a lot of people that they do, since they're stuck between the bait and the spray, they'll come in and spray, and they'll flush, and they'll vacuum, and they'll get try to get a knockdown quickly, and then come in like a week later and do the baiting. I've tried it, and quite frankly, you have to know how long that residual is going to be there so you don't get cross-contamination. So that might be 2 weeks, depending on what you're using. If you're using a pyrethrin, which has it dissipates very quickly. And remember, there's a difference between being outdoors, where you have degradation going on because of light, soil, and water, and indoor, where you might not have a lot of that. So you can use products that are non-repellents if you're using the spraying with the gel bait and use a non-repellent product. But I find that it's still double the work. And I've been able to be successful in doing just the baiting, but with a program, with a method. And I'm going to share that with you. So what I do, if I have a situation, I think long term, and I'm the kind of person that reverses engineers everything. I just have that ability to do that, to start thinking backwards in the process. I think for the customer that I owe it to the customer to provide them the best service that I can. I know there are a lot of people in the industry, because I've heard the conversations, that say if I get rid of the problem completely, then the customer doesn't want us back. That's it. And in my case, I've learned to work around that. We have high front-end services. In other words, they're high-cost front-end elimination services that if the customer doesn't want a preventive service, doesn't want the bi-monthly service, doesn't want the monthly service, we can get rid of it, and we have a protocol. We tell them what the expectations are. All right. And this is one of the most important, because I get a lot of questions about customers complaining about this and that and the other. And I say, look, you have to have a protocol that is working 80% of the time. And you tell the customer up front, this is what you can realistically expect from a first service, from a follow-up service, from a third service, and then from a preventive service once we get rid of the problem. If you don't, you'll create the expectation that you're some type of superhero, and the customer expects something that is unrealistic. And I'd rather lose a customer because they decided that my way was going to take too long and that somebody else offered them a quicker solution, than to not be able to deliver and have that customer on my back constantly. But you told me, because that's how people are. You tell them something, and that's what they expect. So you need to have everything usually up front with the customer. And my protocol is very simple for multi-unit dwellings, for apartments, for houses. Restaurant and food service facility is different. We're more reactive to that because of the violations could shut a person down. But in the case, this is my protocol, and this is what I do, and I think of the long-term process first. The number one thing I do is I'm going to do a void treatment. I am a fanatical about doing void treatments because they're often ignored. And for German roach control, Advert Dry Flowable does a very good job for those voids that you can't get to with a gel or anything else. And it's a bait. Now, Advert Dry Flowable is not as productive as the Advert Gel. The Advert Gel produces a greater kill and a greater secondary kill than Advert Flowable. But I'm using it in places that I don't depend on one product to solve my problem. So it does about 30% of the job, 20 to 30%, which is fine because I'm in those voids. I'm doing those outlets that I'm treating behind those voids in the outlets. I'm treating behind those pipes versus using like a Cymexa. I'm going to use the Advert because the major problem is a roach infestation. And I'm going to treat underneath those cabinets and all those void areas that I have a hole that I can get that dry flowable in there. All right. And then if I can seal those pipes, I'm going to seal it with foam and just end that so that they have less access. I foam every single job that I do. We seal behind all those pipes. We get that little point in there, and we're using the water cleanup DAP foam for indoor. It works great. You can just simply take that plate back. If you even got one of those little bathroom plates that you can't get to and you can't stick anything behind, well, you can have the little flexi pipe that the Advert Dry Flowable works in. You can get it back there. And then what I do is I foam the back of that cap and make a heavy, basically just a big heavy donut back there. And then I just push it into place. And it's going to seal it right up. And then I just wipe around it. Done. Takes about a minute. All right. Then I'm going to take my Advion gel. Now, I'll tell you what I like about Advion and what I don't like. I love the fact that I get the great knockdown very quick. I get the secondary kill and the tertiary kill. I just hate the way it flows. So you have to get it there, and then all of a sudden you take your gun away and there's still more flowing out and more flowing out and more flowing. You got to work very quickly with it because it just drips all over the place sometimes. And even you can't just go back and unclick that gun. I wish the people at Advion would make a gel more like what Max Force does with all their gels, which stay in place. They don't run. And I can get real good control with a bait gun. And I've used several bait guns, and it isn't the bait guns. It's the gel. Okay? So, but I love it for that. And what I do, the way I gel, if it's a house, if it's a residential, I start at the kick plate at the bottom. And every crack, using the highest level that I can use on that label, which is 1 to 3 dots, it's 1 to 5 dots every 10 feet. And I'm going to start out, at the bottom of that kick plate, all around that kitchen. Start at the kick plate. I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to stick my whole body inside that cabinet, and I'm going to find every crack and crevice that I can find. I take my light, I'm pointing it, I'm looking for the feces, I'm looking for the live roaches nesting in there, I'm looking for the euthicas. I'm just looking for any sign that a roach has been there, and I'm sticking that bait in there. All along the back, all the way far deep into that cabinet, as far back as I can go. I turn around in front of that sink, and that face plate in behind there, every crack, every crevice. I do that with every cabinet. I pull the drawers forward, and I treat the back of every one of those cabinets. I get inside the cabinet. Hinges, if I have roaches in the hinges, I'm going to treat those hinges with a dot. Now, a lot of people go crazy with gel and put these huge amounts of gel. I go with very, very small dots. I want it to be undetectable to the customer if he looks under there and doesn't see gel everywhere flowing. I don't want that. I'm going to go up to the top cabinets. After I get out of the inside of those cabinets, I'm going to look at that faceplate where that countertop meets that faceplate, and we're going to treat every crack in there. I'm pulling the refrigerator forward, and I'm treating the back of that refrigerator, cracks, crevice, the crack and crevice that's behind the counter between the cabinet and the wall. There's a void there. We're going to treat down that crack, every crack and crevice that I can find. Moving up to the top cabinets, the same thing. Look at the shelving. Look between there. Look for signs of feces. Look for anything you're going to treat. I'm going to force feed it literally into their face. so that they'll get the product very, very quickly. All right. Once I'm done with that, I pull up the stove. I do the same thing behind the stove. If it's in a kitchen, I'm going to start at those legs first. I'm going to treat the wheels on all the equipment. I'm going to move underneath all those stainless steel tables. We're going to treat under there. We're going to find every crack and crevice place. After I'm done doing my gel baiting, I'm going to take bait stations. And I'm going to put bait stations in that, usually with a different active ingredient than I already use. Probably like the Max Force stations with Fipronil. Very fast acting, great for a knockdown. Putting stations, probably going to use maybe 3 to 5 in a kitchen, in a residential kitchen. And you go by the label. If it tells you so many per square feet or per 100 square feet, that's what you're going to do. You're going to don't cheapen out on shortchanging yourself on this, because the way I see it, you're saying, man, this looks it's getting very expensive, very time consuming. I don't know about you, but a 15-minute drive round trip cost me over $35. And if I got to come back because 3 or 4 days later, this isn't getting control, I got to waste another trip and another 15 or 20 minutes and an apology. So I'd rather not have to apologize for anything. After I'm done putting my stations down, I'm taking out the Gentrol point source. And again, I'm going to put 2 to 3 of those in a kitchen. We also do the same exact thing, by the way, to all the bathrooms. Every bathroom in the house gets the exact same service as the kitchen does. Gentrol point source, we're going to put one in there because I am thinking down the line 3 months from now. I'm not thinking that this is the problem. I'm thinking, if this problem persists, this is going to help control that down the line. All right? I'm going to wait. I'm going to tell the customer, listen, you're going to wait 4 weeks on a residential. You're going to start seeing an immediate down in 3 days. After a week, it's going to be there. By the time that I call you, and I'm going to do a follow-up call for this customer and a follow-up visit in 4 weeks, you're going to tell me it's down to maybe 95 to 100% gone, depending on the infestation. That's the average. 95% control, usually. I ask the customer on a scale of 1 to 100, how do you feel that's been after a month? Normally, I get about 95% from the customer. They still say, I still see 1 or 2 here and there. I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to bait. Instead of with the Advion gel, I'm going to use the Max Force Impact. Same thing. You have to inspect also when you go back, how much of that bait is gone? How much was eaten? Where was it eaten? Are you looking at areas where it was eaten and areas where it wasn't eaten? That's what you need to look for. How much of that bait was consumed? After I do the Max Force Impact, that's usually the end of that story. Put monitors. We want to know where those things are. Now, obviously, there's some serious infestations you're going to run into where you've got roaches in the couch. You've got roaches in the carpet. That's going to take a lot longer. That's going to be like a 6 to 9 month commitment from the customer to get rid of that type of infestation. But if you have your moderate to light infestation in kitchens and bathrooms, and usually I can tell by the infestation by how many I have in the bathroom. And you move on from there. And if you're starting to see them all over the house, now you know you've got a serious issue, and that customer needs to commit for about a year to get rid of this problem. It isn't going to happen in 90 days. It's not going to go away. Restaurants are different. I'm going to do the same thing in restaurants, coming back after a week to inspect. I want to find where the hot spots are. I want to see where my monitors picked up roaches, and I'm going to start treating there with a different product. Remember, I already got 90% of it done with the dry flowable, the stations that are going to last up to 90 days, and then the point source, IGR, which is going to last. Plus, I'm also going to add, granular bait underneath the equipment. So I'm going to use some type of granular bait, either a Max Force Complete, in the case, or something from Rockwell Labs. I think Express does the same thing for roaches with their multiple fulvia. And you're going to treat underneath all those units with a granular and leave a granular down there. So yeah, you're using 4 or 5 different products, but you're going to get effective control and you're not going to have to contaminate everything. And that's what I do for every single issue. Now, my restaurants are on a monthly basis for general service and inspection, and I do a 49-point inspection on a restaurant, and I give a report to that business owner. And if there's things that have to be cleaned, things that have to be fixed, and they're on there and they're not getting done, guess what? There is no guarantee for you. Because, if you won't clean, if you won't cooperate, if you're not getting those doors sealed, if you're not getting all those roof tiles fixed, you're not getting all these things done, you're not going to really get control no matter what you're using. And a lot of restaurants get really dirty, and I've seen them, and I basically lay down the law in the front of the customer and say, look, this is your inspection. This is the score you got out of the 49 points that we inspected this restaurant, this facility in. And you got to get a lot of this fixed as soon as I'm done here. And when I come back, I need this fixed in order for me to be able to help you. Because a lot of places, if you're in a shopping center or you're in a strip mall, you don't know what's going on in that facility until you've been there a while and you've inspected and you've run into a couple of things. And we have that problem down here that people don't want to fix things. Supposedly it's the landlord's job and he hasn't done it. And I said, you know what? The reality is nobody's done it, but it's your problem because you're the one that's going to get shut down if this isn't fixed. And you're the one that's going to have the rats coming in, and you're the one that's going to have all these the flies coming in because you can't fix the seals in the doors, and you're 10 feet away from a trash bin. So all these things we look at, but that one procedure has been very, very faithful to me to make sure that I'm thorough in everything that we're doing so that we don't have to be coming back. And then we do on a monthly basis on apartments. Hey, it's that service. 30 days from then, we do another service. And then usually, unless I find with the second service and I find anything in the traps or in the monitors, guess what? You're on a quarterly program because roach control is the only thing I offer for multi-unit dwellings. I do not do ant control. I do not start doing, I got this little millibug that ran in through the door, that we got this SOCID. We don't do any of that for multi-unit dwellings because 90% of the time the management doesn't want to fix the things that are wrong. They don't want to go through the expense of repairing walls and doing this and doing the other. And it's very, very cutthroat market. And we say we only offer for individuals. This is the only service I offer for residential service. For houses, for single family homes, it's usually done part of our program on a quarterly service for roaches. But my exterior maintenance service is every 2 months down here. I know there's a lot of company doing quarterly. Unfortunately, down here in South Florida, with the amount of rain, humidity, we don't have overwintering. Quarterly services don't work. A lot of companies are doing it, and customers are just really fed up with it. And I've never done it. I've had very good success with a quarterly with a bi-monthly service, taking care of all these problems. But that is my main program. So there's 6 studies on here. There's links to them. You can go to the website, or you should be able to get them from the podcast. A lot of the times the links on the podcast, when they go to iTunes, you can't click on the links, even though we have them set up to be a link, and it's just not happening. So if you go to the PestGeekPodcast.com website and you look up that particular podcast, you should be able to get all the links to all the 6 studies. Some of these studies are 8 pages. Some of them are 20. Some of them are longer than that. But very, very good information. So you can explain to your customers, what to expect and why this baiting doesn't contaminate their whole house, why it takes a little bit longer, and why in the long run it's better for them. Because in the end, you're doing what's best for your customer. You're not doing what's best for your company or for yourself. You got to look at the customer and what's best for them in the long run. And I think this does it. So guys, hey, it's been a blast. I'm excited to be doing this, and I hope to hear from you soon. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.